Hello, everyone, and welcome to RHAP's coverage of Australian Survivor for episode 17 for Brains V Brawn II. I'm your host, Shannon Guss, here to talk about episode 17, how Barren and Bounty worked out. We've had another massive shift in the votes. We've had a third vote in a row where someone is idled out and the split target goes home. It may be a record. I'm going to need Survivor fact checker to, I can't think of another time where, let alone 3 idle players in a row to 3 split targets going home in a row, probably indicative of where we're at in the culture of the season. And to talk about it, I have Mr. Monday himself. It is the great Pooya. Pooya, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. I am not the person with the non-limb this time. I'm happy about that. But also, Shannon, I have a bone to pick with you.
Oh, with me?
Yeah, because we're supposed to be teammates. We've been rocking this, season together. We're on together every Monday.
Yeah.
And you just let 3 people join you on the feedback show and slew me for absolutely no reason.
I don't think Marianne did.
Marianne didn't, but very hesitantly took on the moniker of being me in the which of the 3 are you? It was kind of like, oh no, I'm the Mike Bloom. No, I'm the Mike Bloom. Okay, I guess I'm the Pooya. Also taking umbrage with my Chizy points. They were.
Yeah, well, that's fair.
Is it fair?
I do that every Monday. Truly? Yeah.
Is it truly? I gave points to somebody who's still in the game and still doing her thing. What a crime. What a crime.
Look, I'm not responsible for what Marianne, Zach, and Oma say and do. They're adults. And if anything, I agree with some of the things that they said, but I'm not responsible for anything that they said,
You can back me, though. Like Paulie, I don't want my name uttered at all. How about that? How about that's the new rule?
Is that the vibe? You want to be like Paulie was this episode, just being like, I just don't want it. I think as we found out that with Paulie walking out the door, that simply whining about something is, and Logan probably can hear this as well, simply whining about something and being like, I don't want it to be that way is actually not a strategy. And maybe you're learning that too, Pooya.
Oh, that's worse. That was horrible. Well, obviously, jokes aside, that was yikes for me. Based on what they literally explained and laid out every reason why they should not be doing exactly what they end up doing. But we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, no. As far as feedback guests go, they've all been slam dunks. But I don't know. The 3 Stooges were entertaining, but they might have made an op when they did not want to. But we'll see.
I don't know if they made an op. Maybe they continued their opness with you. Definitely Oma. I think that's already been out there. Zach seems kind of new. Marianne, I think, is getting strays. But look, again, none of this is on me.
I love Marianne. Marianne's my favorite.
Yeah, same, TBH. I can't be responsible for what all my co-hosts say. If I was responsible for what Marianne, Zach, Oma, you, Mike, Chappelle, I can't. Just a lot of balls to juggle. So
I keep thinking you'll have my back, Shannon, and this is the second time in a month span that you've not had my back. There's things a little.
What was the other time? What grudges are you keeping?
We'll talk about the draft later.
Oh, okay. If anything, people are very mean to me. Look at that laugh.
Not being mean to Shannon. That's Chappelle's job.
Yeah, exactly. You're the second meanest to me. Anyway, I think it's been proven that I'm the victim here. And Australian Survivor?
Yes, let's talk Australian Survivor. That's what we're here for.
It's crazy that Miles lost all the power in one episode. And I feel like we're seeing the culture of the season is that these pairs, especially powerful pairs, especially they knew Logan had an idol. We know Miles has an idol. These powerful pairs can be turned on so communally and so unanimously that it becomes splittable, and then the split ends up going home. Last season, it would change every episode, and that was hard to cover weekly. I'm really glad we're doing this episodically, but here it's changing kind of in multi-vote tidal waves for a couple of votes, and so unanimously and so communally that they will split it on someone who had all the power, who seemed like they were at the top of the hierarchy before, who just tumbles to the bottom, and that's what happens to Miles. And I will say that after 4 podcasts of wrestling with how results oriented we were on a week ago, looking at Miles's move, I've wrestled with were we wrong? I've come to different terms with it. Something settled in my soul this episode where I thought Miles could really use that vote stealer right about now. And it crystallized something to me about maybe holding on to it when he was in the position of power, or going to be in a position of power, to maybe need it now, because now he is a unanimous target after being on top.
Well, he was a unanimous target already, I feel like, coming into this episode, somewhat. I think that, obviously, I mentioned earlier, but being taken to task for not giving Miles any kudos that night that he plays his Steela advantage or steal an idol to take out PD, there was a lot of people that were like, what are you doing? Like, PD was never going to work with him. That makes sense. And that did make sense. We did talk about how that makes sense. But we also talked about how you're now on the radar. Now, Shannon, did I expect that in the journey to us talking about the show again, we were going to see AJ and Miles basically be safe and have no issues and just get everything they want out of the deal? No, I definitely did not see that coming. This is what I expected to see coming after that night. So it feels like it was on a bit of a tape delay almost, where now there's people looking at Miles, and it's not just people that are like, okay, enough of the Rat King and his ways. It's also his own allies are like content with this. You can make the argument, he lost Paulie, who was in his back pocket. Paulie was very okay with getting rid of Miles until he realizes Miles has the idol. Up until that point, he was about to cut him as well. So it was not looking good. And I think ultimately, could we still give him that it was a good result for him? Yes, whether he knows it or not. Paulie going is not bad, but I think one thing reigns true, whether it was Kristen going or Paulie going here, and that is Miles was going to be looked at moving forward no matter what.
Yeah, I think the thing I look at is that he could use the power now, and I was shifting more and more towards like just keep it if you were going to end up having numbers or have the capacity to build numbers, which is what he did through 2 to 3 episodes, and now that's been lost. And we can look at like where so much has been lost for Miles. I mean, I think a lot of the time it's crazy how much comes down to Kaden Morgan. When you win or lose Kaden Morgan, that seems to be the game. And that was definitely something against him here. And I mean, he loses everyone, but they're 2 really big numbers in that who are even driving it on Bounty. I will say for Paulie's last stand, literally in the challenge as well, I loved the edit. I think they had a lot of fun with the Barren and Bounty of it all. I think they had so much fun, obviously, with like the montages of what Paulie's been through, what Chappelle and I called his like supervillain origin story. I think it's crazy the fact that like Miles's idol would giveth and taketh away. Like Paulie gets saved by Miles's idol and now has gone to another one of Miles's idols. So it was a very, very interesting trajectory for Paulie, who's now unfortunately out of the game. He was a big character in Paulie, but I hope he's okay. I feel like he was really going through it in this episode and beyond in a way that was just like, very devastating for him. But how did you feel, because we haven't spoken about the twist, like how do you feel like the twist played out in the kind of content of this episode?
It was interesting because I think the twist is what begins Paulie's like dissension into madness more than where he may have already been. I think if you're looking at it through Paulie's POV, we've been talking about how he gets unfairly called this snake oil salesman for episodes on end. And then he has a moment where it looks like he's going to leave. He gets saved by Miles' idol. And I feel like to Paulie, that was like, all right, clean slate. Let's mingle. Let's show these people that I am worthy of being here, that I'm nice, that I'm an ally, etc. Only for people to then put Paulie in the Barren tribe, which then to Paulie was, okay, does it not matter what I do? Like, do you not rate me at all? Because I've been doing everything that, one would say is a good ally or someone who you can work with. So what is this? This is insulting to me. Like, you don't care about me. And I think that, again, when Miles brings up this idea of, hey, so I'm the idol, so tough for anybody who wants me out. You'll kind of have no choice, but let's work together. Let's get out Kristen. I think Paulie should just run with it. But I think the problem is Paulie is then told, hey, there are votes coming on you. It's like, why again? Why am I always the votes? Let's put them on somebody else this time, which I'm not on the beach. I'm not on the island. So I can never speak on how that would feel. But my instinct watching the game has always been, as long as I pretty sure it's not me, I'm okay with this, especially if I'm playing from the bottom. Yes, you don't want people, and this is true with Big Brother or Survivor or any show, you don't want people to get comfortable with writing your name down because then they're just going to feel like they can do that versus somebody who they're too scared to put their name down and they don't think of or consider that name ever. So that's bad for you. But I think in this situation, I'd be like, you're right. I don't have a choice. All right, let me just do this. I don't need to do the most because I think Paulie kind of self-fulfilling prophecies himself a little bit here. That's kind of my take on it.
Well, I think that like yeah, again, just like whining about your position from the bottom is not going to be the thing that saves you. And like I think it's like the lack of leverage. To be fair, it's very funny that it's like Paulie, such a snake oil salesman. Cut to Paulie, he's like, I just beg you to let me live. Like he's literally on his hands and knees begging from like a human perspective to just catch a break. And that's the snake oil that he's selling apparently. But yeah, I mean for Logan and for Paulie, it would be good for them to understand their position, which is at the bottom. I mean, Logan's, whining about being at Barren. I hate to be dismissive of it. I'm sure it sucks. But at the end of the day, you're complaining to people about being at Barren. You were the target. You were actually leaving the game before the vote. Like, you have to know where you're at. And for Paulie, I feel like, yeah, he might as well pile on to Kristen. He's been told he's the split, but maybe the better thing to do is try and throw Logan under the bus to be the communal split at that point, because without Logan and without AJ, like nothing is going to happen here. So I feel like what he should be doing is going to them and being like, why am I the split over Logan? Oh, because Karin's driving it, because Karin wants to keep Logan. Like Logan is more of a threat because they're trying to use her as a piece on the board compared to me. I have no one. That's why I'm such an easy split, which is why this is a waste of time. Like I think like actually pushing that is the move rather than just being like, I just don't want this to happen. They're like, we don't care what you want. You're like the Meg of the tribe that we can just like push down. So I just don't think that there was anything there for him. But I did find it interesting because it was Murgatory in this episode. And usually with Murgatory, we see that they are, people have very conservative votes. And to be fair, this was a pylon. So that probably also, does like when Logan and Paulie feel so constricted in this little group, it pushes a desperation to just hang on and try and push each other as splits, which Paulie should be doing better. But it was interesting to me that it was such a big flip. And I think that maybe speaks to the fact that Murgatory is usually like first vote going into a merge, clearly in US Survivor. And you even had this in Survivor South Africa, where it's like, you want to make, get closer to a jury and you want to like just get basically into this next phase of the game. And I think people take very conservative targets. So I think that Miles being the target speaks to obviously us being 5 rounds into a merge and the dynamics playing out. But I think like the, culture of the season and Murgatory lends itself to pile-on culture, and it lends itself to the people at the bottom just, scrambling, not trying to make it like a very active offensive move, even if, that's a move on Kristen, which is Miles's move.
If this was done in a, like, they're clearly separated into 2 tribes of Barren and Bounty. If this was ran as only the Barren group can vote out,
which is what we wanted. Yeah.
Yes. Who do you think goes out in that scenario?
At that point, I think at that point, Miles isn't given the information from AJ, so he might be blindsided with the idol because the other 4 were coming against him. And then I guess Miles would vote probably for like a Logan without, if he plays the idol, which he probably wouldn't. It feels like Miles might have gotten blindsided. But we see the 4 of them turn on Miles anyway. Like this must have been brewing. Like the odds of them all simultaneously coming to it on separate beaches makes me feel like either it was so evident that Miles was just running things and like we're giving him Chizy. Well, I gave him Chizy points for being on the top yesterday. So like that hierarchy seems clear. And then like maybe they've been talking about it. So I feel like Miles was in trouble, especially without AJ giving him that information. How does this happen for Miles? Is it just that it was like that delayed power? It kind of feels different from everyone. Like Kaylin is such a big loss. Karin and Zara, like they've been on the bottom for that speaks for itself. Paulie, I feel like was an active loss with the way he was treating him. Like everyone's been treating him, sending him to Barren. Logan's on the bottom anyway. Chris is on the bottom. It's really like Kaylin, Morgan, and Kate that are like the main people who were in his 5 that are like not with him now.
Well, the thing is with Kate and Morgan, they're like, okay, we get rid of Miles. AJ's more on side with us. We don't have to question that relationship. That's good. I think from the graduate side of things, it's like, okay, enough. And I think the frustration for Karin that was very clearly illustrated was, I'm sick of making plans and then last second they change it. I'm not about that. They keep changing it, and that's not okay with me. I think that's another piece of conversation there. I think for anyone else at the bottom, it's toppling down the status quo right now could mean a reshuffle, which could also land me in a better spot than what it is right now. Because if in any system on any of these shows, whoever is at the top when you are at the bottom, there's a world where if you take that person down, the whole foundation shakes, and now new people are at the top, which could benefit you. You could catapult to the top, which could benefit you. But what's guaranteed is what is happening right now. This current setup is not for you. So I think a lot of those things are a problem, which then all leads back to one thing and one thing only, Shannon, and it's Miles's power is not hidden. His status is not hidden, which means that everyone publicly can see who's top dog right now. It's Miles. And I think that is where the problem lies. For a little bit, it looked like, oh, AJ's taking the brunt of everything. Everyone sees it as AJ. I think that has since subsided somehow. And AJ's no longer seen as the extending arm. And it's more so Miles is seen as the one in control.
Yeah, well, so if we look at it, like Karin's been given the plan last minute because at a point she was the target, not from Miles, but and Miles is actually protecting her, but she's not in the top group. So once we're at the bottom, and Zara, we also didn't really see in that 5. Mm-hmm. She's also not liking the way that her real place in the hierarchy is playing out. And to them, that seems like they don't have control. The plans change last minute. We know that's because they're not in some of the plans when Karin's name is a real name in that plan for the majority group for a while. So they're at the bottom and they're picking up on that in different ways. So Zara, Karin, obviously Paulie's been lost because again, I feel like making him a target on Barren was so unnecessary. We see here that Kristen has a lot more allies and power than I would think. I kind of felt like Kristen should be the person that they're beating up on instead of Paulie, who you've saved to be a number. But Paulie's lost to that. Logan's on the bottom, and Kristen anyway is on the bottom. And AJ keeps trying to work. I can work with Kristen. She hates you, AJ. And so that's 5 of 10. And then it comes down to Kate, Morgan, and Kaylin. So I'd like to talk it through for them because I'm trying to work out why I'm kind of I'm okay with it for Kate and Morgan, and I'm less good with it for Kaylin when they're in a similar spot of what seemed like a 5 that will become a 5 of 9 and a majority, like a strong majority. And they both give that up for a broken up group that's going to be more chaotic. They don't have a majority, but no one has a majority. But it might shift perception from a final tribal council perspective for all of them. So I'd like to start with Kate and Morgan on that because yeah, I mean, for Kate and Morgan, I did joke yesterday. I'm like, they're in a good spot, so they'll probably flip tomorrow, which actually did play out. But for once, I actually think this is fine. I think for them, again, they don't have a majority, but they have each other, and they are a target as a pair, and that might be a concern at a point. But if they keep AJ, and that's a bit of a block, and again, I don't see where the other numbers are again, it might just be that the next communal hierarchy is they're the pair, they're the threatening pair, and people who've never worked together come together on a splittable unanimous vote because that's the culture of the season. I think that's worrying for them, but I think that I'm a little concerned about them staying with the 5 because I don't want them to seem really passive at the end, really block up their final tribal council options where it can only be with each other, where they, that's the only person they can compete with, and just seem like they were kind of dragged along in something quite stable. I do think that at this point, it's fine to kind of cut things up. I think that they did it well. I think Kate did it well. She gave the plan to Zara and Karin really well. She was kind of gentle with it. She's like, if you want to do Logan, we still can. I thought Karin responded very well to that. She's joking about it. I'll accept this rose. And then she also was like, that'll be good because you'll get AJ in closer. So I thought it was, they came up with it well. They pitched it well. They obviously get it done well. And again, the other side is coming up with this at the same time. So it's probably something in the air that they're not going to be left behind on, which is good. And initially I was low on Kate telling AJ, because I was like, it's a bad read. He's definitely going to tell Miles. But I've now shifted my perspective to think it's not about the read. It's more that it's a calculated risk. And the reason for that is that maybe the hubris is they really seem to assume they're going to win the challenge. And all of these public plans are being made on Miles being a target where you have to assume that Barren will lose a challenge. But considering that is a fair bet, if Miles is ever the target, you're both immune. So doing this now where you're both immune, if you tell AJ, is he going to tell Miles? Probably. Is that really such an issue? If Miles has something, he can play it, but he might not. If he does play it, Kate and Morgan are both immune. And they can almost have the luxury of trying to really keep that AJ connection and be really honest with him because it is important to their block, knowing that it's never going to bounce back on Kate or Morgan or even AJ. These are their main allies in the game. Again, this works out maybe even better for them. Paulie goes, Miles is kept around as even more fodder as a target for the future. He's defanged and, someone they can kind of try and take out through the next couple of rounds. And you have the luxury of keeping AJ more on side and like really trying to handle that well in your relationship with AJ, who also, to be fair, has nowhere else really to go. As much as I don't love the idea of like you take out someone's ally and they get closer to you, AJ without Miles doesn't have a lot of places to go, and you have respected his feelings as much as possible here. So I feel like it was done well, especially taking the shot, assuming you'll be immune. You can play with this a bit more, and I think like this is I think Kate especially did well on this.
I think so too. I think my instinct was don't say anything for entertainment purposes because I don't trust AJ to not run it back. He does.
Yeah.
But I think everything you've pointed out and also seeing Miles's POV, I think it's a net positive that Miles stays. And we find out, then she finds out he uses an idol because why? Idol back in circulation or at least out of Miles's hands. That's one. Mm-hmm. Two, when discussing other options, Miles never says, I want Kate out. I want Morgan out. Miles wants Kristen out. And I think
Kate and Morgan at that point are immune, to be fair.
That's true. So maybe he has other feelings.
But he has no power to do it as well.
But yeah, he's looking to formulate this other new side of underdogs together with the Logans and the Paulies, but that doesn't come to fruition. The person he tried to vote out in Kristen didn't go out. And you have to imagine now that that's where he's going to head again, maybe. Although with this season, nothing is predictable, so I'm not going to pretend that that's going to exactly be what happens here. I think that for Kate, this was good because I think it further solidifies to AJ that Kate and Morgan are trying to work with me. And so you're not going to he's going to see them as, at the very least, people he wants to take to the end or parachutes now. And if there is like a custody battle for the AJs, as far as like, he's like, am I with the graduates? Am I with these two? Right now, they're winning because they've been more honest with him and more upfront with what they want to do. And trying to, if they're doing a move, they're trying to do it with him, not against him, which I think is also another good way to look at it.
Yeah. The way that Kate, like, she continuously goes to AJ and is like, I don't want to put pressure on you for it. Like, I think they handle that relationship really well. Mm-hmm. But it is funny that, yesterday, Chappelle and I were saying, like, wow, Miles and AJ are really in the middle. The people on each side should really go to each other and be like, should we just take them out? But they never will. But then they did. And I think that, that's a fair credit to Kate and Morgan, who are in a majority anyway and are like taking more of a risk to break it up, like more of a risk to their stability. But I still think, again, they gain on possibly perception changes. They gain on having some power in an hour chaotic group, even with some risk. But like for Karin, this is so perfect. Like the fact that it worked out and was, to be fair, instigated by Kate and Morgan. But yeah, like we were saying yesterday, like Karin's on the bottom. What do you do? It's like, it would be great if she could go to Kate and Morgan to try to take a proper shot at Miles and AJ, considering she felt she could only take a shot at Kate and Morgan. And even that wasn't working. This was the move, and it works out so well for Karin. I think this was a great episode for Karin. I feel like she's the one pushing the split onto Paulie to keep Logan. She's wanted Paulie out in the past. Like she gained so much from the fact that the vote is exactly how it is and how she keeps Logan. So I think that this was like really good for Karin. Like I have no notes around it. Like she literally did exactly what I wanted her to do. So it was great.
Yeah, I think this was a very good episode for her, for sure. Like, I think in an episode where you could pinpoint who was this bad for, I think who was it good for? Yeah, she's on the top of the ballot for sure.
Yeah, there's no note. So I'd love to talk about it for Kaylin, because that's my really big question mark. Because why am I okay with it for Kate and Morgan? Kaylin also is in that 5. Kaylin is as close to Miles and AJ, if not closer to Miles. Kaylin also, I think, needs to shift the perception going into a final tribal council, but I think it's a different perception. So when I pinpoint, like, why am I okay with Kate and Morgan breaking up their majority and taking on risk to, like, try and maybe have a winning game and a more, like, possible open game at the end with who they sit next to, why, like, is Kaylin doing that for me worse for me? I think it's really hard because I don't know Kaylin's relationships because the edit's obviously not been good. But for me, it looks like, while no one has a majority, Kate and Morgan at least have each other, and AJ, like, that's a block. They are a threat as a pair. Kaylin, I think, might become a threat based on the fact, like, that he's an Adonis. But I don't know where Kaylin's other relationships are. So I feel like he's floating. He's trying to make a group of, we see Logan, Kristen, himself, and Paulie. To be fair, that's all, he really has on Barren. But Paulie's about to go. I don't feel like that is a group. I don't feel like he has a block. I don't know where he sits. And then I look at the perception final tribal council, and my fear for him, compared like Kate and Morgan, my fear is like you look passive, and this is an active move while they're immune that they can point to against other people that aren't each other. Whereas I feel like for Kaylin, my concern is that it's not that he won't look active. My concern is he'll appear really wishy-washy. Like look at the way that Logan responds to him, because he's been so in the middle and not really willing to take a stand. I think people could be, feel betrayed by that. So I feel like you kind of need some stronghold to be like, no, I was working with AJ and Miles through it, especially AJ and Miles, who people might not necessarily like at the end compared to Kaylin. So, and again, like Kate and Morgan have that possibility as well. But I feel like for him, he kind of wants some stability to point to. And I don't want him to have the perception that he was just like super flaky more than super passive for Kate and Morgan, especially with like, unconscious biases of how we see people in the game. So that's my concern for him. I just don't know where he sits. Like, what did you think about this for Kaylin?
I think it's fine. I feel like Kaylin is, I mean, the thing is, we don't see a lot from Kaylin. What we do see is him just bonding with people. Like, there's not often where you're going to get, like, we see the moment with him and Kristen laughing up about introducing each other at the final tribe.
Yeah.
Like, stuff like that. Like, that is, like, in chaos, in tense, stressful situations, one thing everyone can agree is you need a little comic relief. And I feel like that's where Kaylin's coming in. And I think that is helping his game heaps. We saw this in the beginning of the season with the coconuts and everything. Like, this is just somebody who is a good time, good energy. And there are glimpses and flashes of him, talking strat with people and trying to plan things with people. I think at the end of the day, it's kind of working out because no matter who finds an idol, who's at the bottom, the last person they're going to put a name on is Kaylin. And that's a good spot to be in. Now, as far as agency in the end game and fighting for that, I think that, it's all about marketing and branding. I think there's a way to brand how Kaylin's playing to sell it at the end if he's to get there. I think the other part of it is as far as people being bitter with him, I don't see that happening as of right now. There's still a lot of game to be played to see, but right now to me, it doesn't look like anything he's doing has made anyone feel backstabbed, because for the most part, I think everyone else is busy backstabbing each other more in the open.
Well, to your point, to his credit, Kaylin is the only name on this losing Barren tribe that we don't hear. And I think Morgan and Kate assume more risk as a pair in this like structure of targeting pairs unanimously than Kaylin does. Kaylin's never had a pair. Like Kaylin can float, and while it's a double-edged sword, because I'm like, where do you sit? I'm also like, you're less likely to be targeted. I think the way that I see it is like Kate and Morgan assume more risk, but have more power possibly to come back against that risk with where I see their voting numbers and a block. Whereas Kaylin probably will be looked at less. But if he ever is looked at, like who is ever vouching for him? If it's just like everyone likes him, but who's like the person really like, you know what I'm saying? Like sticking out for you. I felt like it was Miles and AJ. And if it's not Miles and AJ, then is it just like everyone kind of likes you, but at the point where everyone turns, no one person is like jumping in front of the bullet? Or is it enough to just have that like communal layer of protection just due to being like kind of more like passively liked by everyone? So I think it's a very different game. I think I'm just shocked by the fact of him just turning on Miles. Like, again, like if it's brought to you, get on board. You don't want to be left behind. But he was such an active member of those discussions. And I guess I don't know enough about his other relationships other than just assuming they're positive to know where he sits when he makes a move like that. Like, where are the numbers for him? Where does he go forward to have some kind of agency in the game without the numbers in the majority that he's been in? Now, the only thing I see is the numbers he's left with on Barren, where he's trying to make a group that will not live to even see through this episode. Like, Paulie's going to go, Logan's on the bottom. So without knowing where the stronghold is for him, even if it's not a majority, but like in this cut-up group, where can he find the stronghold that he did, to be fair, have if Miles, AJ, Kate, Morgan, and Kaylin could have like seen it through a majority of this episode? Where are those numbers? I think it was just shocking to me that he might turn against it. I guess I don't know enough about Kaylin's game to say it's terrible. I guess he's the kind of person who's, again, passively protected enough to make moves and like do what he wants because it doesn't feel like it's going to come back on him. It just feels unstable to me to lose what has been like the one consistent thing he's consistently chosen through this game, and that is AJ and Miles.
Couple of questions. How many people are left now with the exit of Paulie?
9.
9 total. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've got the pair of Kate and Morgan. You've got the pair of AJ and Miles. You've got the pair of Zara and Karin.
Yeah,
Then
and
you
now
have
we've got
Logan and Kaylin. Oh,
Logan,
and
Kaylin,
Kristen.
and then Kristen. Those are the three. Yeah.
So I think that there's a couple of reasons why Kaylin's looking good, especially given the fact the man has won immunities individually and is not being like punished for it. I think that the pairs are still the story of the season. I think that you're still going to get people looking to wanting to sever some pairs up here. If not for the just sheer fact of, okay, let me sever them so I can scoop the other one that's going to be left loose for myself later. I think that's why you're seeing specific people talk about their relationships. You know, Karin talking about wanting, to work with Logan, or seeing Kate and Morgan looking to get, bring AJ a little more on side. So I think that while there are three pairs there, that's good for Kaylin. Now let's look at the individuals that don't have pairs with Kaylin. Kaylin, Logan, Kristen. Logan is still looked at and targeted by quite a few people. Even playing from the bottom isn't enough for people not to look at Logan or make Logan the backup vote in the event an Idols played. Kristen is somebody who, all we know about Kristen is she is a happy person who wants AJ out of the game. And when I say we, I mean the entire island knows that MO.
Not
so
AJ.
Kristen's someone, yeah. So Kristen's somebody who I think will continuously be looked at before Kaylin, which is, by the way, nuts to me. Like, that should not be the case. But I think that's why I really look at Kaylin, and I think that what worry does he have? He's playing with borrowed money. It's like he's at the casino, but he's not bankrolling his game. Other people are giving him currency to use, and he's like, okay, I'll use it. What if I lose it? Like, don't worry about it. There's no consequence for you. Because he can be a part of a, hey, let's go Miles. What about that? But then who's going to get the blame for that? It could be Kate Morgan. It could be Zara and Karin. It's not going to be Kaylin. And I think that's why he benefits from the layout right now. Like, I truly don't see, unless he wins like 3 immunities in a row, I don't see anybody looking at Kaylin as of right now, until, he puts his foot in his mouth or something.
I think you are pulling me across because, I mean, I think at first, it was just so shocking. So gut instinct, I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Compared to Kate and Morgan, I always saw them on the side of the pillars. And even though, again, that could be a majority, I always felt like let the people on the side come through and, go for the people in the middle, which was AJ and Miles. Again, better for Karin, who's completely on the bottom, but it makes sense for them. I saw AJ is in the middle. I saw Kaylin is in the middle with AJ and Miles. So I think that just where the hierarchy was shocking to me. But now I'm looking at it and just describing what you're talking about and the group that he's trying to form. Now, again, while Paulie goes in this episode, the only people that are available to go are Miles, who they do try to go for and successfully split on, but then also the individuals. And now I'm thinking that group that he was we should get together was Logan, Paulie, Kaylin,
the individuals.
So individuals. Kaylin is someone who's never been described as someone with a partner. So if he can then try and do that, where it's I'm going to vote out pairs and then I'm going to pick up individuals. And if he can then talk about that at a final tribal council, that was my plan to then get a majority of individuals. And I was the I was the buddy killer. Oh, we're completely creating this from nothing now. But if he can be the buddy killer and then create a majority. It was unfortunate to lose Paulie, but if we can keep going for pairs, Kate and Morgan are more at risk for that. And then I have these individuals. Again, it was unfortunate that he could only split on an individual here. He has to tell Paulie he's splitting on Paulie. But Miles plays an idol, he's the only person in Barren on a pair. I do see it now, and I do think it's not really his fault that it didn't go well, because there was literally no room to move. And I do think that calling yourself the buddy killer at Final Tribal Council, even though we just invented it, is badass. So now I'm starting to see it more about where the stronghold could be. And if you don't find the stronghold, as you're saying, he's just not really in trouble anyway. So it's not very concerning compared to a Kate and Morgan, where if they lose power, that's going to be concerning.
And he, amongst the cast, has a PhD in playing the game as a true single, where even the individuals we just discussed, Kristen had Petey, Paulie had Noonan, Logan had Laura. They're all people that were associated and looked at as a duo that are now severed, but are also being looked at because of their prior crimes or the crimes of their partners. Even they're looked at and associated with that a little bit. Miles was Petey will never work with me. Look who he's looking at still get here. Kristen. Get Kristen out of here. I think, you know, he doesn't have to deal with the crimes of his own or the crimes of anyone he was associated with, because everyone's so focused on these other duos that either existed or are existing. And I think that it is a great spot to be in to, you know, welcome the newly divorced couples into a singles alliance of like, oh, hello. Yeah, losing your partner wasn't great, huh? Well, I can be your partner. You know, we don't have to make it official. We could just flirt a little bit, see where it goes. And I think that's not a bad spot to be in. I could see him and Logan working. I could see him, like, you know, he's clearly bonding with Kristen. They went out of their way to show us that. That has to mean something to me. And I think that he's set up in a way where anyone that gets split from their singles is going to not blame him. Anyone that keeps their like duo could look at backstabbing their duo with him. It's a win-win situation for Kaylin. Sometimes I think, and like I said, it goes back to branding. You mentioned the buddy killer. I think that's great, because I think sometimes in these games, people will feel like, oh, I have to do something, otherwise they'll say I've done nothing. But I think there's so much power in saying, when everything's going my way, why would I upset the apple cart? Why would I change the structure? You only change the structure if it's not working for you in this game. And right now it's working for me. Everyone's looking at Miles when I'm doing stuff in the background. Everyone's looking at pairs. I don't have a pair. I've strategically come in without a pair. I've won 2 immunities no one talked about me after. I have not needed an idol, but my name is also not being written down. I think these are all great ways to market yourself. So if he truly realizes that, I think he's playing a really good game to articulate that. It all comes down to if he knows how to sell himself at the end game. But also, sometimes it's easier than others, right? If he's at the end with a Kristen, I don't think he needs to say much to get that W. But if he's at the end with someone else who's had a huge story, he might have to pull out all these big stops we're talking about.
Yeah, it's very hard because we have to fill in a lot of gaps because we talk way more about Kaylin on this podcast than he's shown on the show. So we are inventing some stuff, but the things we're reading into
are there. He lives with goodwill, Shannon. He's one of the players here that has gained a lot of goodwill because of the way we're filling gaps up. For all we know, it's the opposite. Everyone 100%. Dislikes Kaylin, and it just discounted him from day 4.
We have to take such leaps. Like, for sure, that what if they come at the end and they're like, everyone hated Kaylin and he never had a chance, and you just completely invented all of these things, because then he'll do something shocking, like turn on Miles, and like it's not what I would expect from him. So I'm like, where do you sit? But I think the things we're trying to read into, as you said, like the positive relationship with Kristen. And I think for me, the big thing is when he's talking to that 4, it's not just everyone against Miles. At that stage at Barren, it is, but it is also the 4 non-pairs. And I do think about someone who's not just been an individual, but someone who's been kind of a 3rd wheel, a 5th wheel in this game. I look at that and I was harsh on the fact that I'm like, well, Paulie's going to go home, but someone had to go home. Like, they're the only 5 up for the vote. Again, Kaylin's name isn't being said. Miles is then immune. That's not Kaylin's fault. And it's unfortunate to lose Paulie there, but I do think as a strategy, when I look at who are those 4, there's something there in the individuals. And I don't know if Buddy Killer is being uttered on the island, but if it is, that is great. So I just wanted to have some like sense of permanence of where he was at. But now that we've maybe made it up and you've illustrated that to me, I see it. And I get it. And I do agree that he can do more because there's less risk, because people aren't really looking at him. People aren't even threatened really by the fact that he's winning challenges, which maybe again, like at a final 7-6, you're like, no more of this guy. But at this stage, it does feel like he's less at risk even than like a Kaden Morgan, because they're a pair. And as a strong pair, as we see, eventually the kind of like unanimous communal target will shift to you. Okay, like now I'm really high on Kaylin. We've invented this, but it's great. I will say as well, you mentioned like Miles targeting Kristen. I think I'm starting to get the Miles MO. Like, why Petey and Kristen? It's actually kind of like a George thing. Like, George took out Fraser in that episode 7 Tribal Council Heard Around the World, because he felt like there was no real utility in someone like Fraser, who's never going to like make a move or never going to really be useful to him. And I think we see that with Miles, where he's like, you're just not useful to me. And that might have been why he targeted someone like PD. I mean, we definitely heard that in the PD discussions as well, which is like, you're just like not a workable number for me. So I think we're kind of seeing that here, as much as it doesn't happen. I would like to talk about that plan. I also feel like we should talk about AJ, but maybe let's talk about this plan, because yeah, for like Logan and Paulie, who are on the bottom, I think the issue for Miles is that Logan can trust that she's not the split, as much as in her voting confessional, she's like, it's you or me to Paulie. She has Karin there. Like, she's won that battle of relationships. Like, she goes to Kristen and is like, you are, you know, Miles has put your name out. Like, she's winning that over Paulie. Although, to be fair, Kristen being like, come on, Paulie, you didn't tell me. Like, Kristen, you have voted for Paulie so many times. It is so hypocritical. But at that point, yes, like, Paulie, you should be trying to win the battle over Logan. So the fact that Logan is winning that battle, I feel like she doesn't have to do it. At that point, Paulie just has nothing. But yeah, I mean, what did you think about this plan to try and come over the top? Well, not over the top, but try and make Kristen basically the split on an idol that's definitely going to be played?
Well, I think that you've nailed it, right? Which is, if you know where 5 votes are going, and then it's just a matter of where the splits are going to be, work on the split numbers, not so much against you, but befriend them. Befriend them. Make them not want to put your name down. Not tell them not to put your name down, because that ain't going to help. Because they're like, you know what? What I'm hearing is, then if I do put your name down, you're going to still be as upset with me as you are now if you stay, or you leave and I don't have to hear from you again. It's a good risk. I can take that risk. It's like a low risk situation for me, versus making someone feel bad about putting your name down, or make them feel like if they put your name down as a detriment to their game, then it's better. Then they're like, you know what? I don't want to do that. I think this is someone who I can bring back to my side or work with or use to like get someone else out, etc. So I think the guilt, like laying the guilt trip, ain't gonna work.
No.
If you do it the way you're doing it now, which is, I deserve to not have my name in the urn.
That's not anything. Yeah. I mean, look, poor Paulie, definitely. But no one is, that's not something people will respond to. I think what people will respond to is that for a lot of people, Logan should be the split over Paulie. We've seen Hayden Morgan want to work with Paulie. If you are looking at like coalitions that are being built, Karin is getting this win because she can try work with a Logan. And if she can try get Logan and maybe even Kristen through that, and Zara, like now Karin's really, I mean, that's still not a majority of 9, but Karin is really like creating something very tangible. And I think that that's the argument, right? It's like, if I'm such an easy split, what's the point of doing me? Logan, also an easy split, but why is she not the person? Because Karin got in there first to really put out Paulie as a split. And that is, you know, if you're Kate and Morgan who are working with Karin, you might not want to rock the boat. But also, again, you're all immune. So, like, why not, like, go to bat for your target? And Paulie should be putting that argument to them. It's like, I'm a number for you. Logan's a number for the other side. You're working together now. But when battle lines are drawn against you again, you want me as a number. And I think it's about offering yourself as a number to the right people and painting the Logan-Karin relationship as a threat, because this is a very real threat. Miles is idol. Miles is clearly telling the truth about the idol, because Miles isn't coming to you and saying, like, I have an idol, so, like, let's all change the vote off me. He's saying, I have an idol and I will be immune. Let's change the split, because he knows there are not enough numbers to actually change the vote. If he was saying, let's change the vote off me, you'd be like, oh, maybe you don't have an idol. You're going to be vulnerable. You don't want to be the target. He's accepting being the target. So he definitely has the idol. And if you're the split, you're absolutely screwed. They told Paulie that he was a split. I would just be finding the people who Logan is a threat to, and Logan and Karin specifically, and then being like, it actually should be Logan, and trying to just turn it around on that. So I thought that was a very, very, you know, a tough spot for Paulie, but I don't think that the tact of like, I just don't want to be the target is unfortunately what is right for Paulie. What about AJ on this? AJ telling Miles, but then not voting with Miles. Like, how did you feel about AJ in this spot?
I think AJ's, again, he's like, well, Miles, you get it. I need to, because like what is very clear to me, Shannon, is AJ loves the idea of a double agent play. He loves
you can't spell agent without AJ if you're spelling agent badly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what, like, it's almost like that was his dream, is to be on Survivor and play the double agent, know where everything is, tell the other side what they need to know, but then pretend he had no idea that happened. Look, I think that's sound. That's fine. I think for AJ, Paulie going, fine. I think he can live with that. He's okay with that arrangement. I think for him, the most important thing was he doesn't want Miles to necessarily go here. He wants people to think he's open to getting rid of Miles, so that if Miles is ever leaving, he can be a part of it and maybe even take credit for it. I think that's the other part. I think he also kind of he doesn't want it to be a situation where Miles goes out without him knowing, because if Miles is seen as the upper echelon number 1, he does not want to not be a part of that plan and someone else gets that credit. I think he wants to at least be a part of that. And part of that also being, I want to decide when he needs to go. I don't want it to be other people's hands. I might be okay with him leaving because he is doing good or he is undermining or whatever the case is. Let's say like whatever he thinks of Miles' game. I think part of it is he leaves when I say he leaves. When I'm good and ready, that's when I want him to go. I think right now, if he had left, he would have been like, shoot, okay, he didn't play his idol, but at least I voted him out also. And I think him telling Miles is to, again, lends credit with Miles, makes Kate and Morgan feel good with him also because he did vote that way. I think this is, again, having your cake and eating it too, and also trying to infiltrate both sides to have information everywhere, which I hate to say it, it's working. Like this man has no business having this much power, Shannon. From this is the same person who talked about holding hostages. And I thought, you're not surviving a week into the merge. It's been episodes now. It's been like how many episodes? He's fine. There are 2 jurors. He's still not up there. So it's working. Even today, they're going Miles. Why is AJ? He's safe. Never mind. I keep forgetting about this goddamn Barren and Bounty tribe split because I was like, yeah, why not put him as the split vote? Because he's safe, dummy. That's why. I'm talking to myself right now. But yeah, it's baffling. This should not be working as well as Shannon, but I think it's time to say credit where credit's due. The guy is doing some things right.
Yeah, AJ can't let Miles go. I think that, and again, that's why I thought, like, Kate, what are you doing? And like, Kate has, like, I think possibly a Frankenbite confessional where she's like, AJ telling Miles would be bad. Again, that could be a Frankenbite. Some of the Frankenbites in this episode were really bad, by the way. They had like Karin being like, I thought Morgan was going to go. Like, that's not even in line with what we knew was happening. Like, we saw her being told that Morgan wasn't the plan. Terrible Frankenbite. But I feel like, again, it's not as much about Kate's read. It's more about like the calculated risk when she is immune on the bounty tribe. But yeah, like AJ has to tell Miles. I mean, just personally, he's not losing Miles at the final 10. He has so much fun playing with Miles, let alone the fact of like, if he gets, like if he gets heat for it, at least Miles is a shield. Like worst case scenario, I feel like there is some heat, but then like Miles is fodder for the future if you have to lose him in the near term future. Best case scenario, Miles can, as he said, regroup and they can still cut it up, the 2 of them. So I think he has to do it. And I think they'd be understanding. Like, I don't think he's as smooth as he thinks in terms of like, people won't know I told Miles. I still voted against Miles. I think most people are like, Miles playing, to be fair, an idol on a tribe where only 5 people are, available to vote isn't so suspicious, but also AJ's part of the plan and it's AJ and Miles. Like, I think that they will probably suspect it, but I also think it's understandable. Like, I don't even think this is the same as like Karin and Logan. Like, it has been AJ and Miles. I think there has to be some expectations where he's told that like it's going to get through to Miles. I feel like, again, that's something that Kate, that's like almost an assumption that Kate should be wearing. And it's like, if Miles has something, then he will be protected. And if he doesn't, then we're voting him out, but we're still protecting and prioritizing that AJ relationship. So I feel like AJ plays this as well as he can. He has that power. I don't think Miles being targeted is what he would want for the next phase of his game. I think this is a bit of a loss, but within that situation, I do think he's doing as best as he can, telling Miles is protected. He can't flip to a minority, obviously, on a group that, again, doesn't even work. Like, to be fair, if AJ does it, I guess the 3 of them are coming over the top, but even Logan is not a part of this. So no, I don't think he should be flipping to a minority. Like, when he says that to Miles, he's like, we'll be on the bottom. And Miles is like, and that's where the jungle rat lives. And it's like, no, I don't want to be in the minority. So I'm going to vote for you and you're going to be safe. And we're going to see if maybe you'll sacrifice next time or maybe things shift again. So I feel like you don't obviously want to flip to that group, even in some sort of swing spot. But I think that they give him a lot of power. I mean, Kate and Morgan are coming to him where they're like, we don't know what the other group are doing, but we know we're going to be a 5 against another 5 that has to vote for each other. That's at least a plurality win. And his vote becomes really key in that. But I think obviously you might assume that like you can bring in like a Logan or a Kristen, especially Karin, can bring them into a Miles vote. But yeah, I think while it's not ideal for AJ, it is as best as he can play a situation like this for me.
Yeah, look, I think at the end of the day, when you are the type of game player AJ is, you would love to have somebody in your corner who will say exactly to things you say. Like, him and Miles are responsible for some of the most wackadoo decisions and big, quote unquote, big moves that you need someone to feed off of. You need someone to run those with. You need someone that can think like that, but also appreciate things like that. And losing him at the final 10 is way too soon. I think for as long as the 2 of you are together, if they're looking to weaken the two of you, my feelings are they're probably going to choose to go for the person who has played 3 idols now. You know, like that's just an inkling I have.
Yes.
Uh,
3
so
successful idols where, to be fair, the split goes every time, and some of the times he's one of the time he's in contributing to
pushed
that
that
split with
split.
PD, but other times
Yeah.
like no, the person he votes for doesn't go home, but still he has protected himself or someone else 3 times with an idol, which is kind of crazy.
Exactly. Like, I think that having someone like that is not a bad shout for you, especially when you are making relationships that he is not really a part of anyway. So that in the event that he does leave, you have something else to fall back on. But also, the thing I said earlier about wanting to maybe be a part of the plan in the event that he goes is also good. Like, I think there's nothing but positive reasons to keep Miles in as long as you can, because he's already putting the steps in for in the event he does leave. I either knew about it, or if I didn't even know about it, I have fallback plans for later. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's not letting Miles go now at the final 10, just personally. But I also think that, again, I think there is still risk. I think he's like, Miles and I will seem opposite and will work opposite sides of the tribe. And I think that there's 2 issues with that. The first part is like, it's always going to be AJ and Miles. I don't know that anyone will ever buy that. And I also think as long as they're both in the game together, they will be seen as a pair. But the hope is obviously Miles is a shield for AJ at that point. I don't think they'll be seen as separate, though. And I also think the second part is like, who is Miles' side of the tribe? I guess the Karin side, but like, it's really just possibly Karin, because I do feel that where is the group? Even the way he tried to form this group, the way Miles went to Logan and Paulie, he threatened them properly. He starts with Logan by being like, we don't have a relationship. And then he goes to Paulie like, you have no choice. And that's not forming another side of the tribe. So I don't see the upside as much for AJ when he's like, this will be good because we'll work either side and we won't be a threat. I think that they will be a threat as a pair. I don't know that there's 2 sides to work. I don't think that Miles being targeted, like if Miles was targeted at 7 and AJ can have him as a shield through like 7 and then he plays the idol in like 6, that's looking good for AJ. I think at a point where they're coming for Miles this early, it's certainly not what you want and probably not for the best, but I think AJ does as well as he can with that like unfortunate position. Should we get to the Chizy? Because
let's do it.
I mean, yeah, let's get to the Chizy when I find the Chizy. Take it away, Jacob Sager Weinstein and MC Color.
1, 2, 3. 1, 1, 1, 3. 1, 1, 3, 1, 1, 3. It's getting kind of Chizy. 3, 2, 1.
Well, now I'm like, should we be giving points to Kaylin? No, I don't. I think we did invent some of that. At the very least, I can't be doing it. I'm happy to give my points. So I'm giving 3 to Karin, even though she was approached with the plan. I'm like, yesterday was like, what's Karin going to do? It was like, it would be great if she, Kate, and Morgan could all come together on AJ. And they do on a splittable target on Miles. And she pushes the split in her favor to keep Logan. Wins across the board. Like for everyone else, we can kind of question Kate and Morgan giving up stability at risk. Where does Kaylin sit? But Karin sat at the bottom and now possibly has numbers. And I don't really think this group will stick. But it's a win for today, and anything was better than where she was at, and she gets out, at least the second target that she wanted, and we keep Miles around, and you take out like a Miles now, it weakens, well, definitely Miles' position is well weakened. I think AJ's position is weakened. I think the others assume some risk, but Karin just gets wins. So 3 points to Karin. I'm giving 2 points to Kate as well. I almost gave her 3. I feel like it was her plan. I think she managed it again very, very well. And I think that, I think this was fine for them. Again, like it blows it up and they have some risk as a target. But I feel like it contributes to more agency and the winning argument kind of at the end rather than just being dragged in the numbers. And I did see them as, while in the numbers and at the top, a pillar on the side. When I looked at them in the hierarchy, they're at the top in a 5, and giving up that, blowing up that spot is concerning to me. But then when I looked at like the kind of horizontal hierarchy, it depends what plane I was looking at. But when I looked at that, I saw them as a pillar, and I saw Miles and AJ in the middle. And to try and to even be able to go to the other side of that and even get past the fact that, like Karin was working against them and putting their name out and getting past that to do something to kind of weaken that middle group and possibly assume like your spot at the top of the hierarchy. I think that makes sense on that different plane that I'm looking at. So again, it was also happening, I think, anyway. And if it really was so self-evident, it's great that they didn't get left behind. So I gave her 2 points because she really drove it. And then I gave 1 to Morgan kind of like behind her. That's where I'm at with that. What about you?
We have 2 out of 3 similarities, and that 2 of the 3 people you picked are getting points on my end. I think I'm going to go ahead and give 3 to Karin. And very similar reasons you brought up. The other part of it too is that I think that this new world of Kate, Morgan, Zara, Karin working together, I think is very possible. I think very much it is possible, especially because there is going to be, once there's enough whispering going around post this, it'll get back to them that, hey, Miles was tipped off. Like, the man knew he was safe, like, from very early doors here. I think that could even go back to AJ, which then could cause people to look at AJ, which could bring those 4 together. So that's good there, as well as everything else you said. So let's give the 3 there. I'm going to give 2 to Miles, though. I will be giving 2 to Miles here.
Every week, Pooya, I'm confused by what?
Here's the thing. Everybody wants Miles out. Everybody's looking to cannibalize this man, take him out here. One person may not be on board with that. What happens? Miles now knows they're going to go for you. You're like, okay, I'll use my idol. There's a lot of people that would have just done, okay, I'm going to use my idol, just sit down. I like what Miles did. Granted, I didn't love the way he did it, in that I feel like he could have been a little more softer in his approach to Logan, to Paulie. But I also think some of that has to be contributed to the fact that Paulie kind of dug himself there more so than Miles, turned him sour. So I would discredit goes to Paulie there for that. But I also think that and remind me, please, because when the votes happen, was it Logan who was like, I had to do what I had to do? And to him, like, whispering, and Miles was like, yeah, that's fine. Who was it that did someone not say something to Miles after Paulie goes there?
Possibly.
Did I make that up?
No,
maybe. Listen,
I don't know. I have to go. It's fine. We'll pick it up tomorrow.
I think Miles. I think the whole thing with Miles saying, and that's where the rat, like the jungle rat, lives, is in the bottom. I think there is such a power to knowing how to play from the bottom that even if everyone's looking at him, we thought the exact same thing was going to happen last week, and he survived that. So now that I've seen it happen once, why wouldn't I think it could happen again? So we'll see where he goes from there. I just think that I like a player who can take initiative and still try and do more than the simple, well, I'll be safe tonight. Who gives a damn who leaves? And instead try and take some matters in your own hands. I also really liked, and this kind of maybe helped my points here, I really liked what you said about seeing who Miles keeps trying to target, and it is kind of people that are not involved as much. It kind of, to me, feels like a murder traders would make on the traders that I like, which is take the people out that are either confirmed faithful completely, or just no one's going to know why you're doing that, or no one's strong feelings about that. The reality is, as of right now, Kristen very well should have a guaranteed spot in the final tribal council seats. One of those seats should have her name on it, because why would you get rid of her? I think getting rid of someone like that opens up more seats for you in there. It also means that you're taking someone where people weren't going to break their backs to try and get out, whereas a lot of these other people left, they would be willing to draw blood on each other because they don't trust each other, or they don't want to see you get to the end. So having enough of those is good, because then that's more options on the table for the tribal council for people to vote out. Whereas if you're sitting at final 5 and one of the 5 is Kristen, you're like, okay, I can't really sell a Kristen vote out here, so I'm probably going to go. I might as well win immunity. Oh, I didn't. Oh, and he has an idol. All right, then just me or this other person that's leaving, and I'm leaving. So having more options for people to leave, I don't think is a bad idea either. What I don't like is framing it under they're just not going to make any big moves. So we're here to play Survivor. Let's make moves. I don't subscribe to that ideology, but I subscribe to getting rid of more passive players, because they're more likely to occupy a spot at the end that I would want. And if Miles is playing as aggressively as he is, getting rid of those options is better for him. So enjoy those 2 points, Miles. And then I will be giving my 1 point to Kate for everything you've explained. But I think Kate, the one thing Kate has that Morgan does not, is Kate has a connection with AJ that's strong.
Oh, yeah.
And screen time as well.
Yeah.
It's funny now, because I think unless you and Chappelle gave any points to Morgan yesterday, you and I are now responsible for all 6 points that Morgan has on the board.
Yes. Well, it's hard because who else am I giving the point to? It's like Kate did drive it, but there's a conversation with Morgan where they come to that conclusion together. So that's kind of where the 1 point is for me. And I feel like we see that the most from then. Honestly, I could have been swayed to Kaylin at a point through this, but I wasn't on the Miles points of it all. I think the issue is if he gets Kristen out, then I think we talk about it. Like, again, Kristen as a target, I do think makes sense. And we've like even like looking at the fact that like PD was a target, because it is these people where it's like, are they just going to float to the end and take up spots where no one's ever going to come for them and they're not working with me? And we do think that Kristen is insulated, because I asked yesterday, why Paulie's meant to be a number for a lot of these people? Why do they keep splitting on him? Why aren't they all piling on Kristen? Why does Paulie get split on today? Why does Paulie get sent to Barren? You know, to be fair, the bar is low on your social insulation compared to Paulie, but Kristen clearly has something, and we're only hearing it through Miles, but it does track on where the votes are. So I think it is about there's no utility to her, but then also she's likely to stay around. So as a target, I think it makes sense, but I just think he can't even get the plan done even with an idol. I can't give 2 points to someone who's unanimously turned on, who doesn't even get his way. He votes alone for Kristen. And he wants AJ with him. AJ's not going to do that. He doesn't even get Paulie with him when Paulie has like literally nothing and he's on death's door. So I think that's my issue. While I do find it funny though, that Miles is like back to the bottom and he's like so fine with it, because he's like, I've been here before and I'll take it again. I think that mentality and that approach is definitely funny and probably, you know, refreshing and good that it's not like dire for him. You know, it's like he's seen adversity in the game, like someone else who's always been at the top and then is like now on the bottom might spiral. And like, I guess we kind of saw that from Logan a little bit, but Miles can really, you know, hack it on the bottom. But I can't say that when you're unanimously turned on and don't even get your way that you can get any Chizy points, Pooya.
So I think that having that mentality is really good, because you know, it's what they say about, and do they say it about, you know how they say you should relax your body, because then in the event that you're involved in a crash or something, like it's worse if you weren't relaxed, something like that. Maybe, I don't know where I'm going with this. What I'm trying to say is he's relaxed, right? Yeah. And I think playing from the bottom in a more relaxed, and again, in a I'm playing with borrowed money is a good mentality to have, because it makes you easy breezy and more willing to jump on any opportunity that presents itself. I think playing from the bottom tense is what Paulie just did, which is, hey, stop it. I've been talking to all of you. I've been nice. Have I not been nice? Why are you doing this? No, you can't put my name down. You don't want that. You don't want that at all. So I like that. I also think that, you know, the more you play from the bottom, then play from the top. Like sometimes you're better at one than you are at the other. Sometimes you excel better at the one that you might not want to be in, right? Everyone wants to be at the top of the game. No one wants to be at the bottom of the hierarchy. But if you're really good at playing from the bottom of the hierarchy, putting yourself there only allows you to climb back up. And we've seen this how many times this season with him. Every time he's in the pits, within less time, he goes back up top. He's improving faster and faster. So by this metric, by the end of next episode, he's going to be back on top. Like, that's just how math works. Now, could he leave tomorrow? Yes. Do I want to still give him? He also, if as far as resume building goes, quote unquote, he has played 3 idols correctly. So yes, he might not get to the end, but we don't know what the end looks like. He could still get to the end. In the event he gets to the end, no matter who he's sitting against, it's a hard argument to, you know, fight back from, which is, hey, I played 3 idols correctly. Can you say the same? No. And also I did A, B, C, D, E, D, whatever. So I don't know. I think his 2 points are valid. But maybe you would like to hear a second opinion from Omer with his horrible Australian accent, might I add. Oof.
It is. Look, I'm happy to also gang up on Omer with you. I think that I will give him points in the future if he does all the things you described. Like, yeah, if it comes back around, for sure. If he gets to the end and they can tell the story, he'll get all this shit.
If he comes back around, you should give him 6 points. You should give him the 3, the 2, and the 1 that week.
I'll give him a lot of points if it comes back around, and he definitely prefers to be on the bottom because he has nothing to lose. But at this stage, where people are unanimously voting against you and you can't even get out the target you want and vote alone, I can't give points to that. But if, yes, he makes good on his status of being at the bottom, which he thrives in usually, and then it comes back around, like, then I will give him points. But that's not today. So I do disagree with your points, but I'm willing to let it slide at this time. Yeah, and that's it. We've gone over an hour. Pooya, where can the people find you? What can
at Pooyaism on all socials, twitch.tv/Pooya for my streaming stuff. I'm talking 90 Day Fiance over the 90 Day feed. I'm doing the Pooya and Liana Lounge every week. Liana, we have officially announced, first of all, we're doing Thursday premieres for the episode, so a day earlier than usual. And every now and then, exclusively in our audio feed on whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your pod feed, your pods, We will be doing an audio-only episode every now and then called a mini-sode. This week, we did release one mini-sode, and it was us talking about all things Severance. So you can check that one out. It's about 40 minutes. It's a bite-sized episode, and it's audio-only. So if you would like that, make sure you subscribe to the audio feed over on pooyaandleon.com. And that is the beginning and the end of all my plugs here, Shannon.
Well, what an empire you guys are building. You are the real buddies that I hope no one ever kills in Kaylin's buddy killer. If he does that buddy killer and I was injuring people on purpose, it's over. You don't even know the innovation that I had to get to the end here. It was
like, you think this guy, you think Miles got out PD with his stealing idol? I took out PD when I took off his arm. That was all me.
Yeah, you think that Laura actually, like, she was the one whose torch hit Paulie in the head? No, I tripped Laura. No one even saw it happen. And then her torch hit Paulie in the head. He played the last few days of the game concussed. Why do you think he was going around begging not to be the vote? That's not a plan. That was all me. He had lost some brain cells due to the fact that I had made that happen. There's a lot that Kaylin's going to say at the end, and it's going to blow everyone's mind. But at Shannon Gates for me, WeKnowGlobalSurvivor.com. This week, Caroline is my feedback show guest who will hopefully not be, just shooting drive-bys at Pooya through the feedback show.
I think we're good.
Yeah, I think that one will be fine. I think that will be okay. And then the X interview, covering Survivor 48 as well. I had a really fun chat with Eden. So highly recommend that you check that out on Survivor Global, WeKnowGlobalSurvivor.com. Again, if you're just here for Australian Survivor, you can tap out because we have our weekly segment, Pooya, pretty much weekly at this point, where you get to gloat about the draft. Now, unfortunately, we should always have theme music for it. Unfortunately, it cannot continue past this point, but just on the fly, just like, I lost the draft and you can gloat. I'm really sad to be in this boat. It's the segment where you laugh at me for being so bad at the 48 draft scene. That was the theme, just on the fly.
Wow, Shannon. Wow, what a fall from grace. You used to not have a win.
Yeah.
You got a win. And then you would fall back on the draft average. Overall placement draft average, that's looking a little dire.
And you can pass me.
Myself and Liana can pass you.
Yeah, that's painful to me. Maybe you should be buddy killed.
We have to average, each of us would have to average 7th place or less to get it. And Liana has a team of David, Joe, David, and Camilla. I think Liana's gonna beat your average draft placement. I still could. We'll see, but I don't know. But I think Liana's going to take that. I think Liana's about to become our first 2-time champion, honestly, is how I'm feeling right about now.
Well, it's been horrible. It's the worst team in draft history.
It is.
By far, even, probably.
It's worse. Shannon, it's worse than the one where I got double grenaded in one
I know.
night.
It's worse than Rob last time, which seemed so unlikely. And also, it's just not, it's so bad. It could only be worse slightly. Like, it's 3 of the first 4 boots. It could only be worse one placement.
Yeah, it could have been done a week earlier, really, is all it was.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss this segment though.
Yeah, is it liberating though? Like, are you like, okay, I don't care anymore, like the rest of this the way? Or are you just sad
upsetting.
that you're not involved? Caring.
Yeah, I'm really upset.
Yeah.
Can I still come on the draft check-in?
I would hope so. I would love to have you there. Now, I can't speak for the other drafters, but that's not my place to speak. Now, my question to you is, are you ready for all the relegation jokes that the drafters are going to make at you, probably?
As long as I don't get relegated, that's the one thing. That's the thing. I'm not getting relegated. I told Sam in no uncertain terms. I took it far. I was like, you don't want to know what I'm not getting relegated. Okay. I was like Paulie. I was like, I don't want to hear that I could be relegated.
I don't deserve this. I deserve to be in this draft. I've done my waiting 8 years.
You think you saw people complain? You think you saw Logan complain, Paulie complain, all the things I've criticized in this episode? You should have seen me to Sam. I was like, and I am telling you. I was like, literally, I'm not going. So much so. And it's fine. I'll be on the draft. I don't care. I'll be there. If I'm relegated, I'll still get the link. I'll still show up. Okay? So I'll just show up. You can't relegate me. Literally. It's like that. It's literally, I'm telling you, I'm not going. So that's it. And that's this podcast.
That's the podcast. Real quick though, I know you talked about how you liked the editing, the fun they had with Paulie. we didn't speak enough about the music and the little collages
It was
of the
very
different.
funny.
All
Yeah.
the JLP saying Paulie's name with the votes was so
Yeah.
good. That was such a good job.
Yeah, the music, it was very, very funny. They had a lot of fun
Yeah.
with Barren and Bounty, and especially Paulie in that. It was great. And that music can be used for me currently of where I am in the draft. That same little piano motif. That's how I
Well,
feel. But
You're
yeah.
not in the draft. You're out.
Yeah, out of being. You get it. Okay, but enough kicking me while I'm down. This is what Omer and Zach said was right about you. And thank you for being here. I'm gonna
Round 3,
end this
Shannon.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you to all team behind the scenes. Thank you to the listeners. I'll see you next time. Bye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.